Let's talk a little bit about Filip Zadina, a guy who I have been such a big fan of, and a guy who I've been cheering for ever since he made his arrival in the Detroit Red Wings system 2 years ago. This is a series called What's Next, where we take a look at NHL-calibre players and we discuss what the future has in store for them. We've already made 2 of these videos in the past. We talked about Jesperi Kotkaniemi and the Montreal Canadiens, and we talked about Jesse Puljujärvi of the Finnish Liga. Technically, he's in the Oilers system, but he said that he doesn't want to play there. So, in this video today, we're going to be going over Filip Zadina, the Detroit Red Wings 6th overall pick back from the 2018 NHL entry draft. Let's just go a little bit back in time and talk about that draft a little bit, just to set up the context for how we have exhibited Filip Zadina throughout the NHL and throughout the AHL over the past few years. We already mentioned it, Zadina was drafted 6th overall by the Red Wings, but this was a very surprising pick. The reason it was surprising is because Filip Zadina, if you looked at all the mock drafts, ISS Hockey had him at number 3. Future Considerations had him at number 3. HockeyProspect.com, number 4. McKean's Hockey, number 3. TSN and Bob McKenzie, number 4. NHL Central Scouting, number 3. He was a very legitimate top 3, if not top 4 prospect in the NHL entry draft. And he built such a strong resume for himself after playing his only season with the Halifax Mooseheads that everybody had this idea that Filip Zadina was going to be NHL ready and that he was going to be a top draft pick in that year. But if you remember, the Montreal Canadiens, they went off the board and they chose a center. That was Jesperi Kotkaniemi. The Arizona Coyotes, they went off the board and they chose a center, which was Barrett Hayton. That was completely off the board. And as a result, the player who initially was 3rd, 4th overall in many people's minds, kind of interchanging with Brady Tkachuk in that 3-4 spot, all of a sudden became available at number 6 for the Red Wings, and immediately once he was drafted, I was like, yo, that's gonna be amazing. Zadina and Larkin? Yo, that's crazy. And obviously, I was sitting over here thinking, Zadina is going to be a guy who comes into the NHL immediately. That's what everybody has been saying about Zadina this entire season. Even back in December of 2017, there was debate as to whether or not Zadina would even go 2nd overall because his World Juniors was so much better than Andrei Svechnikov's, who ended up going 2nd overall himself. Zadina was a guy who many people thought was NHL ready, but if you know the Detroit Red Wings, they don't like putting in first-year players into the NHL. They would much rather tell them to hold off. Hey, you know, you're just recently drafted, spend some time with your junior team or spend some time with our minor team in Detroit, and you will be in the NHL soon. That's pretty much how it always goes, doesn't it? And the Red Wings did this approach with Filip Zadina. They sent him to Grand Rapids instead of starting him in the NHL, and in his first professional hockey season, he had 35 points in 59 AHL games played. Now that was a number that a lot of people somewhat were disappointed by. I remember listening to the comments, reading all the Twitter posts and everything. Some people were kind of concerned as to why he wasn't lighting it up and he wasn't a point per game. But to me, it was always more of a question of when will you give him the opportunity to jump up to the NHL and show what he's worth there. The AHL is a different beast than the NHL. It's a lot more physical, it's a lot more dirty, kind of. It's a lot more, let's just say, aggressive than the NHL. NHL is more focused on speed, finesse, puck control, all that stuff. AHL is a little bit more physical. So the fact that Filip Zadina was still able to do pretty well in the AHL, 35 points in 60 games, as a recently turned 18-year-old, is something that I was honestly pretty excited by. And he had his showing in the NHL. The Red Wings played him for 9 games. He had 3 points there. He had a goal off of a one-timer, I believe it was on the power play, where he just absolutely loaded up and shot from the opposite Ovechkin side. That was a really nice shot to see. But then last season, Filip Zadina was finally given some time to prosper in the NHL. With the Detroit Red Wings, he was played 28 games, he had 15 points, 8 goals, 7 assists, and a lot of people would honestly say that they were kind of frustrated with the Zadina time that he did get, because Zadina, time in and time out, would have been played on the third or the fourth line, in a grinder, bottom of the lineup kind of role. And this was not making any sense to many Detroit fans throughout the entire year. What the heck is the coaching staff doing? Play this guy in your top 6 with Bertuzzi, with Larkin, with all these other good players. Don't play him with Darren Helm in the bottom 6. What are you doing? And still, despite these setbacks, Zadina was still able to go over here and get himself the production that he did. Half a point a game in a small sample size in a year where he wasn't really getting played to the best that he could be. So when we take a look at the question on what's next for Filip Zadina, he's turning 21 later this year. I think he is a guy who definitely does have the potential to take that next step and prove himself as a legitimate top 6 forward in this league. Heck, he could have been a top forward this year, but he just wasn't given that opportunity. Zadina to me is a guy who, because his strengths lie in his puck skills, his offensive awareness, his shot, his puck control, all of that stuff, because these are his strengths, and because he is going to play in an NHL that values those strengths so very highly, I think the only place for Zadina to go from here is up. If he plays a full season next year, which I believe he honestly will, because there's no real point in sending him back down to Grand Rapids anymore, isn't there? This guy is going to be in a position to succeed, and he's going to be in a position where, let's face it, if the Detroit Red Wings want to win games, they play this guy in their top 6. If they want to do well, they play this guy in their top 6. This is not a season where the Detroit Red Wings can gain anything from playing Zadina in the bottom 6. There's nothing to gain there. This is a position where the team has nothing to lose from playing a quote-unquote inexperienced player in their top 6 and just giving him all the ice time in the world to shoot the lights out. If there's a player who can take advantage of that kind of situation, to me it is Filip Zadina. Some of these guys in the Red Wings last year who were top in the team in point production, Bertuzzi, Larkin, etc., I have no doubt that they're going to be pretty good too. But Zadina has a legitimate chance at being that as well, as early as next season. This is what people were saying about Zadina 2 years ago when he was drafted, that he had legitimate 20-goal potential in the NHL just because of how good he was as a goal scorer before getting drafted up on that stage and putting on the Red Wings jersey for the first time. Zadina was so highly touted. And sure, Detroit loves to take their time with developing prospects, but time has already been spent. Zadina is 20 now. He is turning 21. If there's a time for him to blast off into the future of his career, it's now. And if the Red Wings aren't going to do that, if they're not going to play him in the top 6, then they're doing something wrong. And I don't think there's going to be anybody who disagrees with me on that. You can say what you want about Zadina. Oh, he needs to work on his defensive game. Oh, he needs to work on his hustle. He needs to work on this. He needs to work on that. If you have a player whose skill set is so astronomically high value-wise in Zadina's puck skills, offensive awareness, shot, and overall point-producing ability, you capitalize on that. Who cares if the guy is not that good in his own zone if he's potting up 30 to 40 goals in a season? Now, I know there is a debate to combat that statement. I know. But at the same time, can you tell me that Zadina does not deserve the opportunity to become a 20-goal scorer just because of that? And in fact, I don't even want to say it's that bad. That's just hyperbole for the purpose of supporting my argument. Zadina has legitimately been one of, if not the best U21 players in the Red Wings system ever since he was drafted, and now is the time for him to show off why. I'm expecting a big year for Zadina next year if he remains up with the Red Wings and if the coaching staff actually gets things right and plays him the way that he should be played. No more of this Zadina on the third line stuff. If you want to score more goals, you put Zadina up in the lineup. And that is how I feel about Zadina. That is what I think is next for Filip Zadina if the Red Wings do this correctly. Now, if they don't, I'm going to make another video in a few months from now very angry at how he is being deployed. But I hope I don't need to do that because I want Zadina to succeed. I hope you enjoyed this video. Social 99, and bye.